Hello there, watching Al24 Midnight News coming to you live from Algiers, and to the headlines. Algeria hands over the presidency of the Arab Summit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia at the level of the Council of Foreign Ministers. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Muqdad had confirmed that President Bashar al-Assad will attend the upcoming Arab League summit in Jeddah. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced a 2-month extension of UN-backed deal under which Ukraine grain shipments cross the Black Sea to the global markets. We are going to come together because there is no alternative. With these words, US President Joe Biden says he is confident on reaching a debt ceiling with the Republicans. Hello again and welcome. Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, in his capacity as the head of the 31st Arab Summit, presented at a detailed report reviewing the outcome of joint Arab action between Algiers and Jeddah summit, a statement by Algerian Foreign Ministry which clarified that the report, which will be presented during the works of the 32nd Arab Summit in Jeddah, includes in particular the endeavor made under the leadership of Algeria to strengthen the pivotal position of the Palestinian cause and mobilize more support for its regional and international levels, in addition to Arab reunification. On Wednesday, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf handed over his Saudi counterpart Prince Faisal bin Farhan bin Abdullah Al Saud presidency of the Arab Summit at the level of Council of Foreign Ministers. Algerian Foreign Minister expressed Algeria's full support for the Saudi presidency as an important station for consolidating the foundations of understanding, consensus and unity in his speech during the launch of preparatory meeting of the Council's Foreign Minister of the Arab States League in Jeddah.
والآن أستسمحكم أن أدعو.
And now, allow me to invite His Highness Prince Faisal bin Farhan bin Abdullah Al Saud, Foreign Affairs Minister of the Brotherly Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to take over the presidency of the Council, wishing him full success in accomplishing his duties and expressing to him, in the same context, our full support for the presidency of the Kingdom and our conviction that it will constitute a significant milestone in laying the foundations for understanding, consensus and unity to serve our joint project, which is a civilized project by excellence. Thank you for your attention.
In the same line of thought, Algeria called for unification of the Arab countries in order to overcome obstacles and challenges to ensure a favorable place for the nation. These calls came during the speech of Algerian Foreign Minister of the Arab level foreign ministers in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, where the efforts of Algeria during the presidency of the summit were discussed. Nabil Khazini.
The flambeau of the presidency of the Arab League was handed over to Saudi Arabia, and with it, Algeria hands over a continuation of a project of unity and common work for the benefit of all Arab countries. During its presidency of the Arab League, Algeria has drawn the contour for a unified path for Arab countries in dealing with several issues related to the Arab world.
Algeria welcomes this vision of establishing this process, which began to manifest itself with the return of the sister Syrian Arab Republic to its seat in our organization.
The Algerian Minister for Foreign Affairs and the National Community Abroad, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, highlighted Algeria's aspirations for the Jeddah summit as a renewed opportunity for a joint Arab action. In his speech, the head of the Algerian diplomacy dealt with many files and crises known in the region, such as the situation in Sudan, Libya and Lebanon. He also recalled the proposals made by the Algiers summit and President Abdelmajid Tebboune to activate the role of the League of Arab States.
لن تتم إلا عبر
The return of stability will take place only through a Libyan process that fosters consensus among the sons of this brotherly people, with a view to organizing parliamentary and presidential elections, as we hope that the Lebanese brothers will agree on solutions to end the current political deadlock.
الحالي.
A unification of Arab countries is very crucial in order to overcome obstacles and challenges to ensure a favorable place for the Arab nation, especially in the light of the imbalances affecting the existing system of international relations.
Foreign Minister Mr. Ahmed Attaf considered that the serious worsening of the situation in Sudan and its consequences is a matter of great concern for Algeria, recalling that Algerian President's initiative aimed at stopping the fighting and launch a comprehensive political process to resolve the crisis.
يشكل التردي الخطير
The dangerous deterioration of the situation in brotherly Sudan, with its security and political repercussions, is a source of great concern for us. In the face of this situation, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, in his capacity as acting chairman of the Arab Summit, initiated endeavors within the United Nations, the African Union and IGAD to develop a joint initiative likely to ensure a ceasefire and the bloodshed and launch a comprehensive political process to resolve the crisis. I highly appreciate the sincere efforts made by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to end the conflict and all that has been accomplished in this process.
Also, Mr. Ahmed Attaf confirmed Algeria's continuation efforts to achieve Palestinian reconciliation and to enable the State of Palestine to gain more international recognition and obtain full membership in the United Nations.
Within the framework of activating the Algiers Summit decisions, Algeria continues, in coordination with all Arab brothers, its efforts to enable the State of Palestine to gain more international recognition and obtain full membership in the United Nations.
Still with the ministry matter, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, has shared in Jeddah the meeting of open-ended Arab Ministerial Committee in support for the State of Palestine. The meeting is a mechanism established in accordance with the resolutions on the Palestinian question adopted at Algiers Summit, and it is devoted to concretize efforts to make Palestine obtain a full membership in the UN, to achieve more recognition and to provide international protection for Palestinians. Also, Mr. Ahmed Attaf has met with his Egyptian counterpart, Sameh Shukri, in Jeddah. According to a statement from the ministry, the meeting was an opportunity to strengthen the Algerian-Egyptian relations and to fulfill the strong will of the two presidents to promote relations at the highest level. The two parties agreed to intensify efforts to inject new dynamism into the mechanisms of bilateral cooperation and coordination on the latest developments on the Arab and African levels. On the sidelines of the participation in the preparatory ministerial meeting for the Arab Summit, Algeria's Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf had bilateral talks with Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Jordan, Ayman Safadi. The meeting provided an opportunity to review the various dimensions of bilateral relations between the two countries, as well as to consult on developments in the Arab world, particularly prospects for strengthening joint Arab action. Mr. Ahmed Attaf also had bilateral talks with his Lebanese counterpart, Abdullah Bou Habib. Algeria's foreign minister's statement indicated that parties had reviewed relations between the two countries and ways to strengthen them, along with developments in the political crisis in Lebanon and prospects for consensual solution that would end the political impasse and facilitate the election of a new president. Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Muqdad announced the participation of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in the Arab Summit next Friday. In Saudi Arabia, in a statement made on the sidelines of the Arab Foreign Minister's preparatory meeting for the Arab Summit, he affirmed that the President will will be there and will attend the delegation after it had been decided to resume the participation of the delegations of Syria in meetings of the League of Arab States and all its organizations after a 12-year absence.
وأنا أتطرق
أولاً أنا سعيد بعودة
First of all, I am happy with the convening of the Arab Summit in this holy land, the land of the Prophet of Islam and Arabism. We're grateful that all Arab countries are taking part in this summit, and that's an achievement for the summit and the role that Saudi Arabia has played. You have followed the visits we paid to the kingdom and the visit of His Highness Prince Faisal bin Farhan to Syria. They were all part of the successful preparation for this summit. We thank Saudi Arabia for the successful preparation it has made and for facilitating consultations that culminated in Arab stances reflecting a unified commitment to face future challenges.
Saudi President Ibrahim Ghali affirmed that the Spanish state is directly responsible for the tragedy and suffering of Sahrawi people as it is the managing power of Western Sahara. In an interview published by the Saudi press agency, Ghali slammed what he called treacherous position of Pedro Sanchez, stressing that as long as the decolonization of Western Sahara is not completed and the Sahrawi people do not enjoy their right to self-determination and independence, Spanish states will always bear responsibility. Saudi President Ibrahim Ghali also warned the European Union of the dangers he confronted with as a result of the Moroccan aggressive approach, which extends to what he called disgraceful practices by creating makhzen lobbies within the European body. In an interview published by the Sahrawi news agency, Ghali considered that the resolutions of international legitimacy and the decisions of the European Court of Justice consider Western Sahara and the Kingdom of Morocco as two separate countries, which means that the Moroccan presence in Western Sahara is an illegal military occupation. Angolan President João Lourenço renewed his country's full solidarity with Sahrawi people and their just cause. Lourenço, in a message sent to the Sahrawi president on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the founding of the Polisario Front, affirmed Angola's support for the legitimate struggle of the Sahrawi people and the leadership of Polisario Front for freedom and independence, and showed strong political and ideological convictions in order to enable the Sahrawi people to determine their own destiny. Italian researcher Roberto Cantone has revealed that his expulsion from occupied Western Sahara by Moroccan authorities was an attempt to hide the exploitations of region's wealth and resources. Cantone, a specialist in renewable energies, was forcibly expelled after being arrested during a work visit to write about Western Sahara in the city of Al Ayoun. Hussein Burkan.
The Moroccan regime's actions reflect once again its fragility and naivety, as it sought to silence and expel Italian researcher Roberto Cantone simply for his investigation into the Sahrawi people's wealth. Cantone's focus was on uncovering the monopoly of lands and natural resources by Morocco, an occupying power in Western Sahara. Roberto Cantone, who specializes in renewable energies, recognized that his research troubled Rabat and exposed its exploitation of Western Sahara's resources.
My interest has been searching and explaining the monopoly of lands and natural resources by Morocco, which, as everyone knows, is an occupying power of Western Sahara.
The Moroccan regime, fearing the exposure of true situation of energy mines and the exploitation of natural resources by Moroccan and European companies, will never tolerate researchers or journalists shedding light on these issues. Cantone's expulsion serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggles faced by truth seekers in uncovering the reality of the Western Sahara.
Of course, the Moroccan regime will never accept the attempt of researchers or journalists to shed light on the real situation of energy and mines and how Moroccan and even European companies are exploiting the natural resources of Western Sahara, despite the issuance of decisions by the European Supreme Court, which recognized that these resources belong to the Sahrawi people and not to the occupying authority.
Roberto Cantoni's voice stands alongside many others who seek justice and truth. The Moroccan regime may have the illusion that the air will be void of dissenting voices and accurate narratives, but Cantoni's actions have inspired many truth seekers to visit the occupied territories of Western Sahara and bring attention to the struggle of its people.
Moroccan Social Front announced that it will organize vigils throughout the kingdom on the 20th of next June in a protest against the continued high prices. The Moroccan Front, which gathers dozens of trade unions, human rights associations and political parties, stressed in statement the need to promote and strengthen the spirit of unity and struggle in defense of the Moroccan people, with an emphasis on the crisis of struggle action in order to form a democratic political front. The People's National Army thwarted attempts to smuggle large quantities of drugs into Algeria through the border with Morocco. A statement by Algerian Ministry of Defense indicated that joint detachments of People's National Army arrested 34 drug dealers and thwarted attempts to smuggle in more than 6 quintals of processed cannabis through the border with Morocco during the period from May 10 to May 16. Revised response plan is up from around $1.75 billion a few months ago, as the United Nations estimates more than 1 million people will flee Sudan this year.
With the conflict in Sudan entering its second month, the United Nations and its partners appealed for $3 billion to help millions of people in the country and hundreds of thousands flee into neighboring countries, as they expected over 1 million to flee into neighboring countries by the end of this year. As the death toll mounts since the bloody conflict erupted in Sudan on April 15th, humanitarian needs soar and displacement grows. The UN decided to launch 2 response plans to provide assistance.
Today, 25 million people, more than half the population of Sudan, need humanitarian aid and protection. This is the highest number we have ever seen in the country. The response plan we are launching today reflects that new reality. Through the plan, which is a revised version of the annual humanitarian response plan for 2023, we aim to reach 18 million people. The funding requirements of nearly $2.6 billion is also the highest for any humanitarian appeal for Sudan.
The humanitarian response plan for the conflict-ravaged Sudan has been revised due to the soaring needs spurred by the current crisis, as aid increased by $8 million from just a few months ago. In a joint appeal, the UN's refugee agency said it was seeking another $470 million for more than 1 million people who have fled the country or are expected to do so in the next 6 months.
About 220,000 refugees and returnees have been seeking safety in Chad, Sudan, Egypt, Central African Republic, and Ethiopia. 150 of them are Sudanese refugees and asylum seekers. Close to 60,000 are people who were refugees in Sudan and who are returning to their country in adverse conditions. So the South Sudanese form the largest number, and overall we have to keep in mind that there were 1.1 million refugees living in Sudan prior to this crisis.
The revised humanitarian response plan will focus on swiftly ramping up food and water and sanitation and other life-saving assistance. The fighting has worsened the humanitarian situation in the country, where 1 in 3 people were already dependent on humanitarian aid before the war.
To the Middle East now, several Palestinian citizens were shot by Zionist army at dawn on Wednesday during widespread confrontation and clashes in the eastern region of Nablus in the occupied West Bank. Palestinian sources reported that a young man was hit by live bullets in the back, while at least 3 others were injured by metal bullets. The report added that a young man was hit by gas bomb directly in his hand and dozens were suffocated, including a Red Crescent ambulance crew who were targeted by the occupying forces. The spokesman for the Palestinian presidency warned against calls by extremists to storm the Place Al-Aqsa Mosque, pointing out to the dire consequences of this implemented. Abu Riyad or Abu Dina said in a statement that the insistence on organizing the provocative flag march of Zionist settlers in the Al-Quds, in the old city of occupied Al-Quds, scheduled for today will only lead to tension and explosive conditions, holding the occupation government fully responsible for this escalation. In Europe, Russia agreed to extend a deal that has allowed Ukraine to ship grain through the Black Sea to parts of the world struggling with hunger. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced Wednesday Erdogan's comments made in a speech to officials of his ruling party came after the last ship left a Ukrainian port, and a deal which allows for the safe export via the Black Sea of Ukrainian grain and was due to expire on Thursday.
Tüm dünyaya bir müjde vermek istiyorum.
With the efforts of our country, the support of our Russian friends and the contribution of our Ukrainian friends, the Black Sea Grain Initiative has been extended by another 2 months. We will continue our efforts to ensure that all the conditions of the agreement are fulfilled so that it continues in the next period.
Gayretlerimizi sürdüreceğiz.
In the same line of thought, Russia confirmed Wednesday that the deal to allow Ukraine to export its grain safely across the Black Sea had been extended for 2 months, said Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova.
We confirm the announcement by the President of Turkey of a 2-month extension of the Black Sea Grain Deal initiative. Thus, there is a chance not in words but in deeds to help ensure global food security and, first of all, to help the countries that need it the most. Secondly, our fundamental assessment of the Istanbul Agreements of July 22, 2022 have not changed, and the distortions in their implementation should be corrected as quickly as possible.
The White House confirmed that U.S. President Joe Biden has cancelled his visit to Papua New Guinea and Australia due to the ongoing debt ceiling negotiations in Washington. Following this, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has confirmed the Sydney Quad meeting will not go ahead. Quad nations are therefore expected to have a sideline meeting at the G7 summit in Hiroshima, with all 4 leaders still attending. Still in U.S., President Joe Biden and top Republican in Congress Kevin McCarthy reaffirmed their commitment to working quickly to raise the federal government's the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling and avert a unthinkable economic collapse. Miriam Zian.
After a month-long standoff, President Joe Biden and top U.S. congressional Republican Kevin McCarthy said they aim to reach a deal by Sunday to raise debt ceiling and avoid an economically catastrophic default. The deal needs to be reached and passed by both chambers of Congress before the federal government runs out of money to pay its bills as soon as June the 1st.
We're going to come together because there's no alternative to do the right thing for the country. We have to move on. And to be clear, this negotiation is about the outlines of what the budget will look like, not about whether or not we're going to, in fact, pay our debts. The leaders have all agreed we will not default. Every leader has said that.
Republicans who control the House had been insistent for months that Democrats agree to spending cuts in exchange for a deal to raise Congress's self-imposed debt limit. But given the tight deadline, the 2 parties seem to have dropped their insistence on a debt limit increase without conditions and have instead opened the door to agreement.
The only thing I'm more optimistic about, he finally agreed to something that every other time we've been able to solve a problem has worked. The structure of negotiations. But now we're along such a short timeline, it makes it almost harder. But if there's one thing you know from me, I never give up. I have the grit, the perseverance, and we're going to get it done.
Biden left for the G7 summit in Japan and said he would speak with top lawmakers by phone while at the meetings and would meet with top lawmakers again on his return. The next few days will not be easy or simple for negotiators who have to come up with a framework and a deal to avoid a default, which will likely trigger global financial chaos.
Ending up with sport, the Algerian team Yuzma Alger booked their ticket to the final of the Confederation Cup against ASIC Mimosa 2-0. After the goalless draw last week in the first leg in Côte d'Ivoire, the Yuzmistes forced the qualification in front of their audience. They took the lead on the scoreboard in the first half thanks to Khaled Bousliou, the 28th goal, first one, and they definitively validated their qualification on the achievement by the second goal scored by Ismail Belqasmi at the 80th minute. To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you ever so much for being with us. For more updates, you can follow our social media platform. And all I can say at the end, take care of yourself and good night.